Okay. Hi. Okay, I think we are live right now. Can everyone see me? There's a live chat box next to the YouTube video that you're watching. If you can hear me properly, if you can see me properly, then please type in and let the organizers know, because I'm not live over there, but the organizers are in touch with me and they are letting me know whether the event is going properly or not. Okay, and also there's going to be a 30-second delay, um, maybe a 10-second delay. Okay, so I'm going to start sharing the screen and I'm just going to keep talking and hopefully you guys can hear me. Okay, so thank you everyone for being here today. This is our first live webinar for JavaScripters. Okay, and to tell you the truth, I think we were a little too ambitious. We should have we should have started with a pre-recorded session, but what the hell, let's give it a shot kind of thing. So here we are doing our first live webinar and we are facing major technical issues. I have no idea whether what I'm saying, you can hear me clearly or not. If you are not satisfied with the quality of this recording or what is happening right now, don't worry. I am going to do a pre-recorded special session, which will have everything cleaned up. And next time, I'm pretty sure we're going to get it right. Okay? But right now, if you're sticking around and you're listening to this, I promise you're going to have an interesting time. Okay? All right. So let's start. So what is this presentation going to be about? So this presentation is primarily about getting comfortable and getting confident in JavaScript in 2017. It's really important to be confident, comfortable, and comfortable two times. Okay. So, in JavaScript, for you to meet the challenges that are coming at you head on, right? So here's what we are going to cover. So let me start sharing my presentation. Okay. So what we are going to cover today? Okay, we're going to apparently you guys can't see me. You can't see me. Yeah, I can go ahead. Hold on. This is really, really confusing. I have no idea what to look at and who to look at right now. Okay, yeah, I can go ahead. Hold on. This is really, really confusing. I have no idea what to look at and who to look at right now. Okay, okay, yeah, I can go ahead. All right. Yeah. Okay, I'm moving ahead. All right. So what we're going to talk about is the choice that everybody has to make this year between choosing a full stack framework or choosing a small library or a micro framework or just sticking with vanilla JS or working with jQuery, right? So that's what I'm going to cover, because you guys should be in the right mindset to choose the right tool for the right technology, right? For the right kind of project. Okay. So then the question comes like, how much JavaScript should you really know to be able to handle something like, I don't know, like React.js? Or if you're just getting started with Angular, then, how much JavaScript should you know and what parts of JavaScript should you know? So next, so you should, I guess you guys are curious about what is coming up after all this React, Angular, Ember stuff. So we're going to take a sneak peek at the future of JavaScript, what is going to be hitting us coming up in 2017. Okay. Then we're going to talk a little bit about Vue.js and what it is. Okay. This is really the reason why I'm covering Vue.js is for the beginners in the audience who are watching this and who are completely baffled by the range and the complexity of full stack frameworks. So I just want to say one thing over here. If you guys remember in 2005 or something, when we first started working with JavaScript, the first thing that we fell in love with was jQuery. The same thing is happening right now in 2017. Okay, the way people are learning JavaScript is by starting with Vue.js, and it's really a wonderful beginner's toolkit to the world of JavaScript. So I can see a lot of people having fun with it as opposed to the kind of dread and anxiety that people are facing with frameworks like Angular and React, where the learning curve is extremely high. And so that's why for the Angular developers who are attending this webinar right now, you are probably going to be excited about this. I mean, I expect you guys to be switching from Angular to Vue and maybe back to Angular again, but you will be better informed. That's the point. Okay. So then we'll do a small Vue.js demo, nice pretty demo that I've created for you. I hope that works out. It's going to be a little shabby because instead of spending time on the demo, I was spending time on dealing with technical issues with this podcast. And yeah, so it's going to suck a little, but I'll have an improved version of it down the line. Okay, so hold on to your seats. Okay, so here is what the JavaScript world basically looks like. It's a box of temptations, and it's the code that you face every day at work, right? So we are constantly tempted by new technologies, and at the same time we have to deal with all this tangled up code at work, and we don't know how to make the switch. The new things that we keep learning, how do we bring them into our projects? So this is something I'm going to talk to you about, and this is really a dilemma. It's a dilemma for everyone, including me, right? So I find myself constantly switching back from the kind of project work that I have to do and sneaking in code patterns and libraries that I deal with into my project, and that's really the only way I have to validate if what I'm doing and what I'm learning really works. Okay, so the essential thing is JavaScript. Okay, but JavaScript right now is so huge, with the amount of HTML APIs that you have to learn, uh, the the number of DOM methods that are there, and it's really confusing. Okay, but what I found out is that there are basically 7 to 8 things that every JavaScript developer stumbles upon, and if you focus on these 8 to 10 things, you are on your way to learning JavaScript properly. So I'm not obviously going to deep dive into any of these 8 things that I'm mentioning. I will be just skimming them, and then I want to do a separate webinar workshop on each of them, right? So, but here are the 8 things that you should note down, like look at. Okay, so these 8 things are basically the weird part. So the question to what part of JavaScript you should learn the weird parts of JavaScript. And these things are weird fundamentally because they do not exist in other languages, or they exist in other languages, but they are optional. Over here, if you don't know these parts, you're going to feel out of the loop very soon, and you're not going to be able to master your code, right? So the first thing is the async nature of JavaScript. Okay, I hope you guys can see the screen. Somebody please ping me if the screen is not legible. Okay, so the first thing is the asynchronous nature of JavaScript. JavaScript, so if I compare it to a normal synchronous language like Python, it doesn't work in the same way in terms of time. In Python, if you want something from the network requests. Future. Okay, next is callbacks, which is related to the asynchronous nature of JavaScript. Most JavaScript developers know how to consume callbacks. That means they know how to work with the callbacks that are given to them. But I don't see JavaScript beginner developers especially writing methods that accept callbacks, because essentially they have to write something called higher order functions, and higher order functions are really hard to come to terms with. And an example of a higher order function happens to be a callback. Okay, so these are the really strange parts of JavaScript that we have to deal with. Next is promises. Okay, to come to terms with callbacks, we came to promises. But it turns out nobody really understands how to work with promises, or how to create promises especially. They seem to be even more complicated than creating callbacks, but simpler to consume compared to callbacks. Okay. Then the this keyword in JavaScript. The this keyword is really notorious. I mean, in other languages, you have something called self. That's the same thing in JavaScript, what we call this. But the point is, this keeps changing. When your why it keeps changing and how to get control of it becomes another topic in itself. So this is really something you should learn, and it's not easy. I'll tell you that. You get it wrong all the time. Next is event-based programming. Okay, so event-based programming exists both on the front end, on the browser, as well as in Node, in the back end, when you're working with Node. Okay, and it works in different ways. In Node, we have something called the event emitter pattern, and on the browser end, we have callbacks, and we have native browser events, and we have custom events. Right. So what exactly am I talking about? I'm talking about basically button dot on click do something. That is an event-based programming paradigm, right? All right. Next is closures and scopes. These things are related. Again, this is something that does exist in other languages, in all languages, but the way it works in JavaScript is really weird, and the way especially library frameworks and library authors will use this, it will throw your mind in the toss. Again, this is something that you need to come to terms with. Object creation pattern. In most languages, object creation is just a matter of creating classes, using the new keyword, and that's it. You have your instance methods, you have your class methods, and you're on your way to learning JavaScript. But in JavaScript, you have, at least the last time I checked, there are 4 to 5 patterns for creating objects. And nobody seems to be agreeing on what is the right way or what is the official way. Not only that, but there are huge controversies and fights internally in the community. Even something like the class keyword that was introduced in ES6 has now become a matter of huge controversy, with people like Eric Elliott arguing against them, and other developers arguing for them. Okay, I see no other option but to navigate this controversy and all of its power. This makes JavaScript really hard to learn. Okay, and if you guys have ever tried understanding what the prototype object is and what to do with it, well, best of luck. I mean, I can barely understand what the. Thankfully, making my own prototypes, etc., is hardly something that I ever have to do with JavaScript, except when I'm writing some kind of library code. So again, that's a point of entanglement and controversy. Okay, next is, this is the most common things that we have to do: syncing our user interfaces with data from web API calls, right? You call the Foursquare API, you call the Twitter API, you get data back, and you have to update your user interface in real time. This, if you're making a single call, no problem, right? But imagine that you have a dashboard of data. Now that dashboard of data has to constantly respond to data that is coming in, and it has to respond to the user that is clicking on the dashboard. And you have to keep your user interface in sync with data. And this is really where these frameworks shine. Okay, this is the number one reason why a library or a framework can help you out as opposed to just jQuery or vanilla JavaScript. And yeah, we'll be looking at maybe a couple of examples in the future, but not in this one. Okay, then another part we need to get in terms of it, and this is not really a weird part, but this is a good part of it, because with the kind of tools that we have as JavaScript developers, we have absolutely amazing debugging right at our fingertips. And mastering JavaScript is really a matter of effectively debugging our JavaScript. Okay, the other thing is writing modules with JavaScript. Uh, so in so we write script tags in our HTML pages, right? Now the whole point is all the script tag that is below, that is last, depends on all the script tags coming before it. That gets really weird. You move beyond 3 script tags and you will not be able to manage your application properly, your application state properly. Yes, if you're just working with a website and you're just dealing with plugins, then I guess you can manage like everybody else does. But again, it's not a satisfying environment to be programming in. Using modules really brings you in the same space and mindset as you are in your backend code. So those amongst you, I know a lot of Angular developers are coming from a C# and .NET background and would like to see JavaScript adapting the same patterns and giving you the same environment and control over your programming as those tools do. So if you want that, believe me, learn how to work with modules. Unfortunately, native modules are not yet part of the browser environment. You will still have to come to terms with modules by using tools such as browser sync or browserify rather on the front end. In backend, if you're working with Node.js, you have CommonJS, you have AMD, you have too many patterns, you have the ES6 module pattern. Again, difficult for beginners to deal with because there is so much tooling involved. I plan to have separate workshops on tooling. My colleague Manjula Dubey is going to very soon do an entire talk on Webpack. Okay, Webpack tooling, which is like the default standard these days for tooling and automation with JavaScript. I really hope that everyone of you comes and attends because we're going to do both a beginner's introduction as well as a deep dive. Hopefully, we can make it into a full day workshop or something like that, right? Okay. Next is, okay, I want to talk a little bit about ES6. One of the major things, one of the major dilemmas that I've had to deal with while teaching JavaScript this year is, do I teach them ES5, which is what everybody used to work with until a couple of years back, and which is still the de facto coding standard now, or the new ES6 stuff, which is becoming the new standard now, right? So I have realized that if you want to work with the new libraries and frameworks, there is no choice but to learn ES6. You can start with ES5, but you have to work with ES6. Now, which part of ES6? Again, I'm going to put down a short list of ES6 features that you need to master instead of all of them, which is like, I don't know, maybe 80 to 60 new features of ES6. You don't have to worry about those. If you just look at this short list, get started with this short list, that should give you an immediate boost. Okay? I'm just going to have a sip of water. Okay. So with ES6, so learning ES6, here is what we need to know. Okay, modules. Modules come by default with ES6. That's the great part, right? So once you learn ES6, you're automatically learning modules, and you're learning them in a very organic and natural way. The day you move from writing script tags to writing modules, especially in ES6, you will have made a major leap in your mindset, and you will reach a whole new level of comfort with JavaScript and your application. Okay, and believe me, most of the workshops that we're going to have right now in the future are going to be all ES6 module oriented demos and examples. So I hope you guys will come and enjoy that. Okay, then classes. In ES6, classes are finally native, right? You can start writing classes, and they do more or less the same thing as they do in your Java code or in your .NET code. So you don't have to now learn about prototype objects. Then this is something that looks weird in the beginning, and the more you Google it, the more confused you get. The spread operator. Yeah, so things like this will suddenly come at you when you're looking at say Angular code and React code, and you're suddenly looking at like these three dots that you've never seen before. Like, what does all this mean? So you got to get familiar with these concepts, and getting familiar with these concepts takes time. Just because you look at the documentation and you look at a few examples doesn't really do anything great. Believe me. You have to actually write it 2-3 times, get it wrong, break it, fix it, and then you finally realize what the spread operator does. To make matters worse, the spread operator is different for objects and different for arrays. But once you come to terms with it, once you start using it, you will not go back again. That's the best part. Once you make a leap in understanding, okay, in your instincts, you will not go back to the old stuff again. You will never go back. Okay, restructuring, again, very closely related to spread operators, but different. And of course, other languages have restructuring. I'm not going to explain too much in restructuring, but it's basically what happens when a function or a method call returns multiple values. And instead of capturing those multiple values in separate variables, what you do is basically capture them in one single shot, in one single line. Again, very beautiful and gives you more control over over the way you move from one control structure to another. Okay, block scoping. Again, you got to learn this in ES6, but it's really not a big deal. This is one of the easiest parts to learn. Block scoping. This basically fixes some really janky old problems in ES5. So this is simple enough to learn. Okay, arrow functions. Oh my god! I mean, this is absolutely my favorite thing in JavaScript these days. It's arrow functions. So I guess most of you must have seen arrow functions. Some of you know how to read them. Some of you know how to write them. And some of you, those who are in a more advanced mindset, are now very, very curious about something called functional programming and lambdas in JavaScript. So arrow functions are really your gateway to writing functional programming examples in JavaScript, to getting comfortable with functional programming in JavaScript. Okay. So then there is the object literal shorthand. It's not really working. Okay, here's something new: async functions. So if you remember what I said a few minutes back about writing about asynchronous JavaScript being the most difficult part of understanding JavaScript. Well, async functions are here now to help. Your code is mostly now going to start looking like Python code, or like Ruby code, or like Java code, or like .NET code. Instead of having callbacks spread across all over your API, you're going to write simple one-line async functions that look like synchronous functions, but behave asynchronously. This is one of the fundamental difference between writing JavaScript and the framework code that I'm trying to adapt and learn to. What is the difference other than the name of the library and everything that I'm pulling into my HTML page? Well, the fundamental difference between writing vanilla JavaScript jQuery versus writing code inside of a library or framework. Hold on, somebody's pinging me. Streaming is strong. Streaming is strong. No? You guys are not able to hear me? Okay. I'm told that everything is fine. I'll go ahead. Can you go to the live stream on your phone? But keep the volume on. Go to YouTube, go to JavaScripters. Okay, so the difference between using vanilla JavaScript and jQuery and working with a full stack framework or even a library or even a micro framework. The fundamental difference is working with the DOM. For those of you who are still unfamiliar with what the DOM is, it's the document object model. It's the HTML that is rendered on our page. Okay, I hope I'm being clear over here. If not, don't worry. There's some code coming up on the next screen. So the fundamental difference is working with DOM versus working with state. Okay, so I'll make a more illustrative description. So here is basically the jQuery that we write every day. Okay, I hope you guys. I'm going to increase the size a little so everyone can see. I hope everyone can see. Okay, so suppose in your code there is a user profile element. Okay, and you want the user to be able to update it. Okay, so there's a button called user with a class of user profile edit. The user clicks on this button, something opens up, and maybe a form opens up, right? And the user basically changes his username and clicks submit. And after he clicks submit, we get back the HTML from the DOM that he has updated, and we call something called maybe the update profile function. This is just a dummy function I put away. And then we take all that HTML that comes back as a result of this function call, and we stick it back in. And this is really basically how we work. This is how most JavaScript programmers still work. Okay. The point of writing modern JavaScript is to realize that this is not the ideal way of doing things. Okay, because every time you want to update something in your application, you are updating something physical on your page. That something physical being the DOM. You are updating the user interface manually. You're doing things on a too much of a low level thing. Okay, sorry for the bad phrasing over here. So what you should be doing is, you should, as a programmer, you should be focused on updating the business logic of your application, not updating the HTML.
The HTML update the user interface update should be taken care of you by JavaScript itself. Unfortunately, at this point of time, JavaScript doesn't do that yet. But believe me, in the future it will. If you keep your eye on something called the observable stack, if this becomes native, you will no longer need a library and framework to update your user interface. So all these things are coming. So meanwhile, what libraries give you is the ability to reactively update your user interface when you simply have to update the data, or rather, when you update the state of your application. If you don't know what I'm talking about, here is the example. Okay, so here is a modern JavaScript example. So this is a piece of React code. I don't know how many people over here have worked with React. I think you must have at least seen React at some point, right? I don't think that's a bad assumption to make. Okay, so over here you'll notice that we are no longer dealing with HTML. We are dealing with what looks like HTML, which is this user profile tag, and it's not a tag, it's a component. Okay, and what this component is doing is that it is giving us kind of a familiar version of HTML that we like to work with. So this is not template. This is not an HTML template. This is JavaScript disguised as HTML. Okay, it is JavaScript. It's a JavaScript expression disguised as HTML. The React developers have disguised it so that we feel as if we are working with HTML, but actually what is happening under the hood is that JavaScript is running. Okay, so basically what you're looking at when you're looking at user profile on click, you're looking at a function call. If you're making a function call right now in your JavaScript code, this is how you do it in modern JavaScript. You use components. This does exactly the same thing as the code above, the jQuery code. Okay. What this says is that there is a quick listener called update profile, and we call that update profile anytime the user clicks on it. That's it. Now let's look at the update profile function. What is happening here again? There is no get inner HTML, set inner HTML. There's no .html and set HTML function happening here. What is happening here, as I just mentioned a few minutes back, is that we are getting control on state. We are simply updating the state. And then if you're thinking, well, how does the user interface then update itself? Well, that's what React does for you. React takes care of it. All other most libraries that you're talking about, even Angular or Vue, which we're going to look at, it takes care of it. Okay? So what you have to figure out is what piece of state or what piece of data needs to be updated. You send it the data that needs to be updated, and the user interface will update itself magically. Okay? In the future, you won't need something like React.js or Angular to do this. We will probably have this built into the browser itself. The browser will automatically give us the APIs that are needed to do this. But meanwhile, well, we use libraries and frameworks. Okay, so this is the example of a modern JavaScript code that can be called reactive. Okay, it's called reactive because the user interface reacts to changes in your state, in your data. You change the state and the user interface can react. Okay, I hope I'm being clear. Okay, I'm going to move on next. Okay, so everyone knows what full stack JavaScript frameworks are like, right? So these are the examples that I could dig up. There's Ember, there's Angular, and then there is Vue. These are the three biggest full stack JavaScript frameworks that everyone is working with these days. And I know most of you are Angular developers over here. So yeah, so what is the difference? So now I'm going to talk about what is the difference between using a full stack JavaScript framework and say a micro framework or a library. Okay, so what's it going to feel like? Okay, so here is my favorite way to explain this. Okay, now in Bombay we have this place called um, Lamington Road. Okay, listen. We go to Lamington Road. So if you guys are from Pune, you guys should think about Tilak Road, I believe, because that's what you guys told me, that you have something called Tilak Road in Pune, where you do the same thing what we Mumbaikars do in at Lamington Road, which is basically if you want to assemble a computer, we go to Lamington Road and we buy these parts, right? We buy a CPU separately, we buy RAM separately, we buy a motherboard separately, and we put together a computer. So now, if you try to think about your application, this is what it feels like doing it, like building an app when you're not using a full stack framework. Using a full stack framework is like walking into, say, a Chroma showroom or something like that, and buying a branded laptop with everything in it, right? So the full stack framework gives you all the tools, features, including all the um, all the build tools and automation built into it. So all the choices are made for you. So this becomes extremely familiar. This becomes very easy for beginners to start with. Okay, but as soon as you start to change something and stuff like that, you get really lost really soon. Okay, but let me mention a few more advantages of using a full stack framework. So the choice really is between conventions that are decided upon by the community versus rules that are constantly changing. Okay, decisions are already made for you. When you come into the Angular world, people have already decided this is the way you write an Angular app. This is what you use for a router. This is what you use for making Ajax call, and this is what you use for updating state. The choices are already made for you. It makes it really easier. So if you are a Rails developer, you should know what I'm talking about. In the Rails world, we call this convention over configuration. Okay, but when you're using a micro framework or a library like Vue or a lightweight framework like Vue.js, the the framework itself will not make all these predetermined choices for you. It will do very little. Okay, so the advantages of using a library is that you get to make a lot of choices, new choices all the time. So this is going to be, you're not stuck with one single stack of to work with. You can keep switching new animation libraries in and out of your framework. Yeah, you can keep changing routers. Though I don't see a good reason why you should keep changing in the first place, especially if you're writing production code. These things should ideally be predetermined for you. But the advantages of using a library is that they're very small, right? So okay, let's go through like the size of libraries. I'm now going to switch from the presentation, and I'm going to try and switch to a browser. Okay, give me a minute. Switch to a browser. I hope everyone can see the browser. Okay. Can people please confirm that they can see my browser? Otherwise, I'll just be talking. Yeah, just give it 30 seconds and see. Yeah, okay, I got it. Okay, so there is this very helpful gist that someone has put online. Okay, I hope you guys can see this. Yeah, okay. And I'll be sharing all these links after the presentation, both in the meetup and on the YouTube page. So you guys can click, so you don't have to worry about going or anything. So you can see the size of, so Ember, look at the size of Ember. It's like a half an MB to download to your browser just to get started. It's like pretty amazing, right? And this is not even your application. Your application code sits on top of this code. Okay, but then again, you shouldn't be looking at this number because this is just the unminified size. In production, you basically minify your JavaScript and you gzip it through your server. So those are the real numbers that you need to look at. Okay, but before we look at those, let's just look at these briefly. So there's Ember on top, there's Angular in between, which seems to be even fatter, and plus there is Rx, and Rx is what you apparently you need to do Ajax calls. That means it's like almost an MB of data you're getting over it, right? And there's React, which is 133 kilobytes. Okay, so apparently I'm being told that you guys can't see the data that I'm displaying on the browser properly. So I'm just going to read out some numbers. I think you guys know what I'm talking about. Okay. So all right. So the React library basically will cost you. Okay, and this I'm going to talk in terms of what is the cost of working with these frameworks. Right. So the React library will cost you 133 kilobytes. And the moment you add something like a data management tool like Redux, it's going to cost you 139 kilobytes, which is not bad. Which means like Redux is only 4 kilobytes, 6 kilobytes. That's it. It's pretty wonderful, right? But the moment you go from just Angular, which is 566 kilobytes, to adding Rx, you go to 706. That means you're adding 200 kilobytes to your application. Again, these are not the real numbers. When you gzip this code and you minify it, here is what it comes out to, which is not bad. You get 111 kilobytes with Ember. Angular is still fat with 143 with Rx. React comes to 43K, 42, 43 kilobytes. And Vue seems to be the winner with 23 kilobytes. Now, there are micro frameworks, which I'm not going to dig out right now, but which will basically come to anything from 8 kilobytes to 16 kilobytes. And if you're wondering what are the numbers for jQuery, well, the last time I checked, I think it was 45 kilobytes gzip. Yeah, which is not bad, actually. So is this all that matters? Does size really matter? Well, I'm kind of divided on this opinion. Like, remember, it's two things. One is the kind of network data that is being downloaded to your browser every time you want to work with you want your users to work with your application. The second thing is parsing. How much parsing? Think about the amount of parsing a browser in a non-optimal environment has to do to get to your application. This matters more than the size, because believe me, the size of your application, especially if it's a front-end application dealing with marketing or it's an e-commerce application, will keep changing because of the amount of images that you have to specify. So I would spend more time optimizing images rather than thinking about how much is my JavaScript library costing. Okay, I hope I've given a good idea about what are the kind of parameters you have to choose. Now, My major, I'm going to switch back to the application, to the presentation again. Give me a minute. Okay. I'm seeing my presentation. No. I don't know what you can see right now. Hold on, guys. Fixing this. Hold on. Yeah, I got it. I got it. Sorry. Okay. Again, I'm trying to tell you what are the factors for choosing a JavaScript framework versus using just vanilla JavaScript and jQuery. I've gone through the technical reasons. Now there are some even more important than the technical reasons are the non-technical reasons. Most of the developer workshops that I am familiar with, there are more junior developers in the shop than there are senior developers. Okay, so when you are choosing a full stack framework or even a library, and you're moving people from native and jQuery to these more complex frameworks, my number one criteria for choosing or not choosing a library happens to be the skill level existing, the skill levels existing in your shop. Remember, the last thing you want to do in your production environment is to burden your junior developers who are in charge of debugging your code or of maintaining your code. So that is really my number one criteria. This is why after most technical evaluation with product shops that I do every day as a living, I tend to take it step by step. If the code that you are dealing with at work happens to be a mess of jQuery, the next step, it's not wise directly to throw everything out and simply adapt the framework. Sometimes that can be a really good way of doing things because it gives you a fresh start and a fresh way of thinking. But most product shops cannot afford to do that for all kinds of reasons, including time and the given skill levels that they have. Okay, and I can see that there are some interesting questions that are coming in now. To please keep posting your questions on YouTube because I am going to answer some of them. Okay, for instance, right now I have a question from Akshay Nayak who's asking about lazy loading to improve performance issues. Okay, I'll talk about that. Ask more interesting questions, and the organizers who are there right now, Imran and Lakshman, are going to bring them to my attention, and I'm going to try and answer them. Okay. Sorry for interrupting again. Okay, so as I was saying, the reason for what is the next step from going from vanilla? Is there an intermediate step between vanilla JS and jQuery and a full stack framework? My answer is yes. The intermediate step is modules. There is no reason for you to not write a mix of vanilla JS and jQuery by separating the tangled jQuery into separate modules. Okay, you can do that and you should do that. It's a great learning exercise. If you start separating your jQuery, your click events into separate objects, and start adapting native JavaScript module patterns, such as the revealing module pattern, which I will explain in a future workshop. You will be on your way to understanding JavaScript in a better way, which really should be the goal, and getting better control over the scripts that you are writing, over the code that you are writing. Okay, so that is the intermediate step. Start untangling your jQuery code into modules, into JavaScript modules. Then you can use as much as jQuery as you want, or as little of jQuery as you want. The best way is to start extracting jQuery out of your JavaScript. Okay, it's harder than I'm making it sound, obviously. Yeah, but once you start doing this, you will be amazed by the level of control you will get over JavaScript and how much JavaScript fundamentals you will start understanding. Okay, and then after that, if you're still not satisfied with the design of your code, with the architecture of your code, then yes, then go ahead for a full stack framework or a library like React, or a micro framework, or a smaller library like Vue. All right. Okay. And so before I move ahead, I would like to answer a question from Akshay Naik about lazy loading and how can you help improve performance issues using lazy loading. Okay. So there are two things you can use lazy loading for. One is for images, and the other thing is for scripts as well. Okay. You can control. So I'll quickly cover images now. Yeah. Yeah, I'll quick. So my friend Manjula Dubey also has something interesting to say about this. I'm going to read out her answer as well. I'll just give you my take first, and then I'm going to read out her answer. Okay. In fact, she's going to read it out for you. Okay. So like I was saying, there are two kinds of lazy loading. One is for images. One is for scripts. For images, what you have to do is you can write native JavaScript and listen to the load event for each image. Each image on your HTML has a load event which you can check on, which you can wait for, and then load the image at a later point of time, which becomes a kind of optimization. But usually you go with a kind of plugin like images loaded. Images loaded is a very popular plugin which helps you basically delay the load of your image and network. Okay, but since this is a JavaScript workshop, I think I should talk more about JavaScript. In JavaScript, in the script tag, you have attributes such as defer and async. Okay, defer, defer, and async, async. These are two new attributes that are available for to delay the loading of your script. I would highly recommend you Google it, Google those attributes out, and see how lazy loading with script loading works. Okay. Now I'm going to yeah, there's another thing. While working modules, you can asynchronously lazy load modules. There is a way. For instance, you're on the dashboard. You don't have to load the user profile while you're on the dashboard, right? Why should the JavaScript for the user profile be loaded at the same time as dashboard.js, which is just displaying widgets? So there is a way to asynchronously load the user profile module after the user clicks on the user profile widget on the dashboard. Okay, so you can do that using something called It will benefit the user who will start consuming a portion of the content than otherwise. So user, yeah, I know. I'm not able to explain this clearly here. I think I'm going to call in Manjula, and she's going to just like clarify this better because there's no point reading out answers. Manjula, please come in. This is Manjula Dubey, who is a senior developer at Book My Show, who has to do optimizations every day. So she's just going to give her take right now. I'm going to relax a little bit. Thanks, Manjula.
Hello everyone. Okay, so I was telling that lazy loading is nothing but I would say you should use different plugins for it. For example, in jQuery there's something called as unwheel.js. So what unwheel.js does it delays the loading of images you're actually trying to load. Now also what it has is it has some cool options, like it will give custom effects while you're lazy loading your images, or maybe some data attribute. But what now if you really want you want to make it more the size of whatever you're loading, it should be more minimum. So what you can do is just don't use these cool features. So there are a lot of ways you can lazy load. Obviously, it is one of the concept like we also at Book My Show use a lot. So yeah.
Okay, thanks, Manjula.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can keep asking us questions, guys, and we will keep answering. All right, let's move on. Okay, what's next? Sorry. Okay, I think what is next is Vue.js. I'm going to start talking about Vue.js. Okay, so let me switch to Vue.js official website. So from now on, I don't have any slides for you. It's all going to be code and websites, a lot of websites. Okay, to help you get started. Okay, so I hope you guys can see the screen. If not, please let me know, someone. Hold on, I think I haven't switched windows. Give me a minute. Okay, let me switch windows. This is not yet available. Okay, I got it. Okay, let's look at Vue.js. Okay, so some people asked me in the WhatsApp group, like, first of all, before you take on any technology, you ask questions about the brand, right? Like who's using it and how hot it is, etc., etc., and does it scale and all of that. So let me get started with those kind of questions first. Okay, so Vue.js is being used by Vue.js being used by large organizations? Yes, it is. But is it as popularly being used in enterprises like Angular and React? No, not yet, but you can expect it to be. So what are some of the organizations that are using it? Well, GitLab, if you've heard about it, is using it. Alibaba is a major sponsor now behind Vue. Baidu, Baidu, you must have heard of this. I think it's a Chinese search engine. Yeah, so they are using Vue.js. These are three big names that are using Vue.js. Okay, right now Vue is in 2.0, and it's really surprising. From 1.0 to 2.0, they really haven't broken the API in any substantial way. The way of doing things remains the same. Yeah, and the biggest advantage I would say of coming to Vue.js is Laravel. Okay, so how many people here have heard of Laravel? Sorry, I can't really talk to you right now, but like, I think a lot of Indian developers have heard of the Laravel framework. So what makes Vue into a full stack, into a full stack is when you use it with Laravel. Now, what is Laravel? For those who don't know, Laravel is a full stack PHP framework. Okay, it is easier to learn. It is easier to write. It it gives you, well, it gives you what everyone thought was impossible, which is beautifully written PHP. Never in my life did I ever think that PHP could be written in a beautiful and articulate way, and Laravel gave me that way of doing things. So by the Laravel community has fully accepted Vue.js as their front end stack, and there is built-in integration with Vue.js. That means every time you install Laravel, you get Vue with it. So there is no extra installation step. So the amount of support, okay, that is available for Vue.js through the Laravel community is amazing. And by support, I mean the amount of tutorials, the amount of full stack application examples available on GitHub. Every week you can see something new. It's amazing. And you can learn a lot by looking and reading code and running it and trying to change it and breaking it, etc. etc. Because that's really the only way you learn these frameworks. By actually running them, by changing a piece of code, by watching the change happen or watching it break and then fixing it. That's the only way I know how to learn any technology. Changing it, fixing it, repeat again and again and again. Right? Okay. So again, the Laravel Vue combination is what makes it really the #1 plus point. The other thing is what I will now demonstrate, which is how easy it is to use and to get started with. For those of you who have burnt their fingers using Angular and React, know that just to start with a simple hello world example, becomes really, really painful. Why? Because, well, the Angular community is using TypeScript and the React community is using JSX, right? And both of these things don't work by default in your browser. You need a substantial amount of tooling, right? You need anything from Grunt to Gulp to Webpack to System.js. I don't know how many things that are out there to get started. Vue, yes. So Vue.js will let you use all of these things, but it's not compulsory to use any of those things. That is the best part of using Vue.js. Okay, so if you see the Hello World example, it's really beautiful. That's it. If you're looking at it right now, if you go to the Vue.js website. So there are two ways of using. So first of all, the documentation is amazing. Okay, for those of you who remember Backbone and how enjoyable using the Backbone documentation was, you will get the same level of satisfaction over here. Okay, so as opposed to React documentation, which kind of is better now than it was, but it's still not at the ideal level, and Angular documentation, which really the last time I tried out 2 months ago was in a horrible shape. Not only that, but Googling issues with Angular was a horrible experience. The answers that I got from Stack Overflow in July were not the answers that I got from Stack Overflow in August, or not the same answers that I got from Stack Overflow in December. And it was a really tragic learning curve for me just to get it. And I really enjoyed Angular 1.5. I was such a big fan. And I guess I need to learn more about it before I start complaining more about it. Yeah, so that's really unfair. And my bad if I like putting it down or anything. But I'm just giving you a realistic estimate of the kind of work it takes to get started with these things. And Vue.js really hits the sweet spot both for me and the junior developers that I work with at work. Yeah, it is as easy as it was to teach them jQuery in 2007 that it is today to teach them Vue.js and get them on Vue.js in 2017. That is what I'm going to say. That's what I'm saying. Okay, so like I said, let's do it. Let's do a little bit of live coding now. Okay, now this is going to get a little tricky. Okay, because I'm going to switch to the terminal first because I want to show you a terminal-based tools because I hope everybody is now using terminal-based tools. I think a lot of you guys must have heard of Angular CLI, or if you're coming from React, you must have heard of Create React App, which is the official way of starting a React app supported by Facebook and official React developers now. So Vue also has something. It's called Vue CLI. Vue CLI. If you Google that, you will get Vue CLI. Now I'm going to switch to my terminal. I'm going to switch the Vue to terminal. Okay, I'm going to wait a few seconds for everyone to be comfortable. So hold on. There we go. And you guys have to tell me about font size and all that once I switch. I'm going to go like full screen and I'm going to pump it up. Okay, somebody has to ping me and tell me if they can see the screen properly, please, before I move. I can keep pumping up the size, it's very easy for me. I want it to be absolutely clear. You guys can see this? Yeah? Imran or Lakshman, please ping me. Yeah. Yeah, you guys can see. Alright, font is okay. Alright, we're moving ahead with you. So I have installed something called Vue CLI. CLI stands for Command Line Tool. Okay. I hope it does. Alright. So it's a command line tool similar to Angular CLI and similar to Create React App. Okay, you don't really need it, but it's so well designed. I thought you guys have to see it. Okay, and it will give you a really good view of how the developer of how the Vue community thinks, how it scales up both learning and building applications, right? Learning about Vue.js and scaling. Okay, so the way you install the tool, well, it's the way you install any of these other tools is through npm, right? The Node Package Manager. So you do npm install Vue CLI, and usually these CLI tools, they are installed at the global level on your machine. So you have to pass it a flag like -g. Again, what I'm showing you is nothing specific to Vue. This is just how modern JavaScript works. This is one of the things you have to be pretty comfortable about, because what would be the option? The option would be to go to the Vue CLI website, download it, put it in your binary and all that nonsense. But who would do that? You work on the terminal, right? Wherever you are. And the way I understand it is in Windows also, the terminal has vastly improved. You have full bash support in Windows 10, at least that is what I was told by Microsoft. I think so. I don't think anybody should have any issues with that. Okay, I can see that there is a logo that is overlapping, so I'm going to try and okay. How about now? Is this better? There's a logo that is overlapping overlapping the screen apparently. Is this better now? Yes. Third line. Okay. This one, Google image which overlaps. Is it give the same command is by using yarn, Y-A-R-N. And the way you install yarn is you download an executable from, no, I'm not paused. Am I paused? Am I streaming? Hold on, let me get confirmation, guys. Can you not hear me? Okay, I'm good again. All right. So using yarn, the same command would be yarn add view CLI -g, which does exactly the same thing as npm install. Okay. Now I'm not going to do that because it's already installed on my machine. Okay. So again. Okay. So once you have this installed, you will get a tool called Vue. You type in Vue and it will show you how to work with it. Okay. Now, what is really amazing about this tool is it gives you a way to build your Vue application in at least 4 to 5 different ways. Now you might be thinking, oh my God, I have to learn 4 to 5 different ways to build a Vue application. No, you can build it quite simply. You can build it without Vue itself. But it's giving you 4 different levels of complexity to start with. So what are these levels of complexity? So let me show you. If you do Vue list, it will show you templates to build your application from. Okay, templates. If you say Vue list, you're gonna see these are the 5 different ways. These are the 5 different ways through which you can get started with building a Vue application. The simplest way is by using the simple template. There's actually a template called simple, so I recommend you start with that. Okay, but the other ways are by using Browserify. Okay, if you want, and what does that give you? It gives you a setup with hot reloading and modules and all of that. And if you want a full-fledged modern JavaScript setup, and you are comfortable with React and stuff, then go for Webpack. If you're not yet familiar with Webpack, but you still want Webpack, you can go with Webpack Simple. Pretty amazing. The way these people have thought out the learning curve for using this framework is really friendly. And this is what you get when you come to the Vue community. You get this level of beginner friendliness. And I find it wonderful to work with my developers, the people that I train, right? Okay, so let's start with just the simple today. Okay, so all I'm going to do is say Vue init simple. You pass in, so init is the command that starts a new Vue app. Simple is the name of the template you want to pass to the Vue command line. Okay, if you don't want simple, you want Webpack, you basically switch that out. I think I'm being clear. Okay. So Vue init simple and then the name of your application. You're going to be building something like a movie app kind of thing. It just shows a simple movie. It's kind of a half-baked demo. I didn't find the time to complete the demo. I'm ashamed to say because I was dealing with all these stupid technical issues with audio on my computer. So anyway, we're going to build this from scratch. It's called, okay, we're just going to call it movie app. Okay, and it's going to generate the entire code for you. And when you see the generated code, you will be surprised to see how little it is and how amazing that is. Right? You just Vue init simple. And the Angular developers, once again, you're going to see so much familiar code. It's going to be really amazing for you. You're going to feel that thrill of pleasure the moment you see this code. Okay, so it's asking me, okay, what should be the name be? Yeah, what's the author? It already knows everything about it, and it's already generated the movie app. So you just cd into it, and you open it. So I'm now going to switch to my code editor. But before I switch, I'm going to switch to my code. So give me a minute for that. Okay. Right. So let me switch to. Okay. Hold on, guys. Once again, doing my first YouTube webcast. I don't think it's going that badly, right? Somebody tell me if it is. Tell me afterwards. Okay, there we go. Okay, and I've switched to my. So please give me a go ahead if everyone can see my code in Sublime Editor. Yeah, you guys can see the code. I've pumped up the font. Hmm. I will wait now till somebody gives me the go ahead. Hello. Yes, they're saying yes. Okay, I've got to go ahead. I'm going ahead with. So, you guys have worked with code generators, right? You must have worked with Yeoman or so many things. Hold on, somebody's pinging me. Yeah, font is visible. Angela, can you see? Okay, some people are telling me, Manila is sitting here telling me that they can't see Sublime Text yet. They can still just see the terminal. I'm just going to double check on my camera and let's see where I've got it right. Yes, present to everyone. Oh, okay, I did not click on present to everyone, and that is why people are not seeing. Good. Yeah, yeah, I think now everyone can see it, right? So as I was saying, you guys must have already worked with some project generation tools, etc., right? And you know, so just imagine like how much code that those things generate. 3 or 4 folders, 60 different files, build this, blah blah blah. And look at what Vue has generated for us. One single index.html. That's it. And this really gets you in a good place to start from. When you're dealing with one single file and you don't have to switch between HTML, CSS, and everything, it's really a nice place to start learning. Right? On HD quality will give. Okay, I'm being told to switch to HD quality. I'm going to try do that. I thought I was already on HD quality. Let me try doing that. Yeah, I am already on HD quality. Imran. I'm already on HD. Alright, I'm gonna move ahead. Yeah, you can see the phone. Okay, we can go. Alright. So, what is this index.html? Well, it's just now the challenge here while doing this broadcast is I don't know how to switch you between the browser view and the code view. So I'm going to give me a minute and I'm going to try and figure that out. How to share both things with you. Okay. So I think what I'm going to have to do is instead of sharing one application, I'm going to share the entire screen. And that's the only way I can think about how to share. You guys will have to again give me a go ahead with this. Okay. This is the best way I can think of coding right now. Does this help, guys? Can everyone see the browser and the code editor at the same time? Please ping me. No? It's not working. Give me a minute. think I should have hit present to everyone or something like that. Now, it's perfect. Would you like any confirm, please? Yeah. Yeah, it's working. I get back. Yeah. All right. Okay. So it's a single index.html file. I'm going to close the sidebar because there's nothing to see in the sidebar. Wonderful. So you can see the source code on the left and what it's rendering on the right. Yeah. So here it is. It's just a normal HTML document. That's all it is, right? There's no hacks, no supersets or subsets of HTML or JavaScript required to write Vue.js. You can plug it into your existing code. And this is my favorite part of getting started with Vue.js. Vue.js does not require you to completely replace your code. And remember, the size of Vue.js is just 23 kilobytes. That's it. So if you want to introduce it on some kind of template, if not the home page of your application, you can experiment with it right away just to see what it does. So the transition from your vanilla JavaScript code or your jQuery code to Vue.js feels really smooth and natural for the most part. Obviously, there are complex scenarios, etc. that you will get some, but again, it's a great way to start. Okay, so as you can see, there's an image tag here, and there's an image rendering over here. There's an h1 tag, and you can see that there are these familiar curly braces. This is the first thing you will see with Vue, right? These curly braces, and who doesn't know about curly braces? They are favorite things in the world. So these are just template tags. So if you work with handlebars or mustache, that's all it is. It doesn't even require any explanation, right? And you can see that there's this value that is being printed out to the screen. Welcome to Vue.js. We will see where that is coming from, but obviously you can already see that it is being dynamically generated, right? Okay. So then next is there's a link, there's a hyperlink, and there is a list. There's this list that is being generated. Okay. And where is all the code? Here it is. It's just like 5 to 6 lines of code. Yeah, I'm just going to leave that on the screen for 2 minutes and then wipe it all off and start from scratch. If you're looking at Vue.js for the first time, you will find almost everything that is familiar. And I'll start explaining one by one. I mean, we're just going to do a short walkthrough, guys. I don't know whether I'll be able to pull off the entire demo, etc. But let's see how far I can get with this. I'll at least do it till I exhaust myself. I do feel a little tired right now from all the configuration I have to do on my machine. Okay? Okay, I'm going to move ahead now. I'm going to remove all of this code except for the opening div tag. Okay, all of it. All of it. Till I have nothing. I have nothing. That is nothing. Blank screen. Okay, everyone with me? Now, always open the console. Always open the console so you don't get errors. Right? Otherwise, I'll be debugging stuff. So everyone can see this? And well, one of the first things you should see is like you get something called a Vue Chrome extension. Yeah, I think Imran is telling me. Go ahead. Okay. Yeah, all right. Okay. You get special debugging tools that come with almost all full stack frameworks and libraries these days. You get a Chrome extension that helps you debug things nicely. Yeah. You can be disconnected. Okay. Okay. I hope everyone. Alright. Sure. Okay, so if you're working with Angular, you get Angular dev tools, you get React dev tools in almost everything, right? You get to examine the scope and variables in a way, in a very focused way, and debug things in a very focused way that normal uh, Chrome dev tools won't give you, right? Okay, so you can see it's all empty. You're starting from blank state. All I have here in my index.html, and I'm going to continue working with index.html today, I think, till I get to any kind of level. And yeah, so all I have is a div ID of app, and obviously the app is going to be a mounting point for the application, a mounting point. I hope that is familiar. That means that is going to be the point at which JavaScript will attach itself to your HTML. Yes? Okay. So you know this happens almost everywhere, in whether you're working in Angular or whether you're working in React or anything else. You have to mount your application somewhere. This becomes the mounting point. Okay. And all I'm going to do is write 2-3 simple lines of code. I'm going to say new view. It's a constructor, and this is how you call a constructor in JavaScript. And inside of the method call, I'm going to pass in an object. And all I'm going to do is give it the selector, which is the element, and I'm going to say app. Okay, that's it. I'm going to save, I'm going to refresh, and nothing else happened except I got something called root. This now becomes the root of my application. And obviously, what comes after the root? Well, it's a tree. No, you're going to get a tree. And your application is going to be like a tree structure. You can already see, right? And if you want to access this root in your console, okay, all you have to do is type in vm0, and you will get the Vue library and all the methods that it exposes. Obviously, I'm not going to. You can see how small it is. Oh, that's pretty amazing. Okay, I'll switch back to Vue for now. All right. Okay. So, next, let's put some data on the screen, right? What's the point of doing this? There's no data. So, how do you put data on the screen? Well, data. That's it. And this is an object. Okay. And let's give it a p. Let's give it a value. So, world. And then that. Let's grab that variable. That's it. Let's refresh. And there you go. That's it. That's hello world. Can you see how simple this is? How brilliant this is? Data. Vue gave you data. Now, what if you want methods? What about your functions? Well, guess what they are called? Methods. No high-level terminology to learn. Your data is data. Your methods are methods. You don't need to explain transclusion to your junior devs. This is really what makes Vue such a joy to start with for beginners. I hope everyone will see that and experience that right now. Okay, I'm just going to take methods out. It's not doing anything right now. Again, so all I've done is I have created a variable called message, a data variable, stuck it in data, and accessed it directly in message. Okay, and this is actually also doing reactive binding for me. That means if I change this app now, if I change the value of this message, the HTML should automatically update. Okay, okay. Let's see that, right? What's the point of talking about it? So I go to my console. I say vm.0 dot message, and I will change the value to hello universe. Oops, vm.0. So every time you get this error, this is a pretty familiar error. This is very frustrating. Okay, what you need to do is go back to your view tools, have the root selected. Okay, you got to select the root, and once you select the root, on the right hand side it will show you the tree of data that you have, and over here you can see that message is hello. Let's try that again. Okay, I hope you saw the error because this happens a lot of times when you are starting. Okay, so again vm.message equals hello universe, and there you go. Let's update. So you can see that there is a reactive binding that data has to your HTML template. And it's really as simple as that. Whether I'm doing it in the console or whether I'm updating a value through form or whether it's an event that is happening on the server that is being sent through WebSockets through my JavaScript, everything is basically the same. As soon as you let someone or something update a bound variable in your Vue app, it will reactively update in real time. That's it. It's so simple. It's absolutely brilliant. Okay, let's try doing something more complex. Like, let's start building a movie app. In fact, right? It's a movie app. So yeah. So what does a movie have? Well, the movie has a title. Okay, and have some assets related to La La Land. I think everyone knows that. So I'm just going to give it a title. We'll start doing this. Okay. And got the title. We got a movie title in place. Okay. Obviously, nothing. You can have as much of static HTML as you want, and as much as dynamic HTML as you want. It completely depends on you. It is not necessary that the entire tree structure be rendered by JavaScript. Not necessary at all. Okay. So I'm just going to write, for instance, over here, movie title. I'm just hard coding that, right? Because I don't need it in my template. So fine, I'll just get it the way it is. Okay. Now, I want to work with a nicer template and all that. I want to work with like a CSS framework because everybody works with the CSS framework. So I'm going to show you one of my favorite frameworks these days. Okay, it's called Ulma.io. ulma.io. Okay, this is a Flexbox-based CSS framework. Okay, and if you are, yeah, can everybody see Bulma? I'm on Bulma. Can everybody see this, please? Can you confirm? If you after you confirm, I'll start it. No? Okay. Okay. Yes. Okay. So again, this is very familiar to Bootstrap. Yes, the classes are different, etc. But really, everything is more or less the same. So if you're not working with Flexbox yet, and you want a nice framework to start working with Flexbox, you have Bootstrap 4, which is based on Flexbox. Stick with that. But I really like Gulma because it was made with Flexbox in mind. Yeah. This is like a bonus thing in this webinar, I guess. So yeah. So let's just browse through the framework a little bit before we jump back into Vue.js. Yeah. It will give you columns like this. So the magic thing with Flexbox is it works according to space and not according to sizes. That means if you add and remove content, the content knows how to adjust itself over space rather than you have to manually specify how much space a certain piece of content occupies. That is the magic of Flexbox. If you guys want, I can do a special Flexbox webinar for you. Flexbox is especially useful if you have started learning something like React Native, like me and Manjula have started now learning React Native, and all layouts in React Native, whether you're working with Android or with iOS, are built with Flexbox. So it's great to have that knowledge. Everybody is moving away from float-based layout to Flexbox. And yes, Flexbox is supported from IE9 onwards. So it has wide browser support. I can see no reason not to support Flexbox. Okay. So here is the grid that everybody wants. If you want to get away from rectangles sitting on uh, in a boring old way, this is the number one reason why I switched to Flexbox, because I get to do complex layouts like this, asymmetrical layouts like this, which it is a pain. It can be done with float layouts, but it's a pain to get it right. Last time I tried on the production project, it was a real pain. And now Flexbox by default lets you have equal height columns. That means if the content in this column is lesser than the content in this column, it will still align. Everything will look nice and symmetrical. Okay. Anyway, I'm not going to walk through the entire thing. I'm just going to grab a piece of code. I'm going to stick it in my Vue.js template, or rather in my HTML template, because Vue.js really doesn't have any template. I am going to grab a hero box or something like that. Go to components, and let's see, where is hero. Yeah, there it is, hero. And I am just going to grab one of these things. Yeah, I'm going to grab this hero. Okay, I'm going to grab a large box. Okay, this whole thing. Grab this source code. Go to my template. I'm going to, okay, I just take out everything right now. Let's stick it in. Yeah. Whole thing in, and I'm going to save. And obviously, I'm going to need Bulma, so I am going to go to the CDN. Bulma, CDN. I'm going to grab a CDN, stick it in my script tag. I hope everyone is familiar with what I'm doing. Nothing special here. Edit. Yep. Added it. And there is Vue.js over here. What else do I need? Yeah, I'll probably need my own CSS, right? So add my own CSS over app.css. For that to work, I'll have to add a new file. I'll just add app.css for my own custom styles. And yeah, I think we should be set up. This thing should be working. Let's see. I'm going to refresh. Let's see if I get any 404 errors. Yeah, just one image that is missing. That's the logo. I don't care about that. I'm going to take out the logo. There you go. Yeah, I hope there's no mystery in what I've done so far. Yeah, all we have is this nice hero or banner area, as they are called. Yeah, hero banner areas. We've seen this in Bootstrap as well. The nice thing about Flexbox is vertical and horizontal centering. It is no longer a pain to do vertical and horizontal centering in CSS with Flexbox. Okay. Okay, here we go. So here's the title. Let's make it dynamic. and neither did I give it a mount point. I have to give it a mount point. So let's give it a mount point. Obviously, I don't have a default app because I've taken code from here. Okay, somebody's pinging. Hold on. Yes. Disconnected again. Are we back? Okay. Okay. Yeah. Start. Yeah. So if you have just joined after disconnecting or something, let me quickly tell you what we have done. We've basically grabbed some boilerplate code from a library called Bulma, and we are now moving ahead. We are moving ahead with the code. So I can see that there is a parent wrapper over here for the entire thing. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to just indent because I like indenting my code properly. I don't indent, I'm not happy with the code. So I'm going to give it a section ID app so I can attach my application to my yeah. Yeah, so I'm switching my screen and that's why you're getting some disconnection. I will try not to switch my screen. But every time you ping me, I have to switch my screen, so you're stuck in a loop. Okay, so I have the parent wrapper of my HTML code. I've given it a section ID. Okay, and once I give it an ID and I tell Vue to attach itself to that ID, everything that is in this HTML tree below, everything that is in HTML is controllable by Vue.js. That's how it works, right? Vue now has complete control over this HTML. Everything from the navigation that you see on top, the content that you see in the center, to this footer full of whatever these things are, these are tabs, I think. Yeah. We now have control over this. Now you can let Vue take over as much as you want. Suppose you want Vue only to handle the center area. Well, that's fine. Then just handle the center banner content and let everything else be static. It all depends on you. There is complete flexibility. And this is the kind of flexibility that I don't really get to experience in these other frameworks that I've worked with. Basically React. I'm talking about React. Okay. So yeah, so let's change. Let's let Vue take over the title of the page. Okay. So where is the title? Title is here, and I've already given it a title. All I have to do is replace the hard-coded title with a dynamic variable title. And refresh. And there we go. My movie title is now shown. Cool. Now I don't particularly need this top level navigation. So I'm just going to like delete it or comment it out or something like that because I don't want to distract anybody with anything. So I'm just going to comment it. Focus. Footer. Yes. Footer I will keep because I can show you a nice trick with it later on. Okay. For the subtitle, let's describe what the movie is about. So let's give it a a musical for all the ages. It'll take hard-coded subtitle, answer this, and there we go. Okay. Let's check into a tree again. Root, click here, and there are our variables. Right? See our variables are right over there. Cool. How simple is this? Minus. Yeah? Continue. Alright, what's next? A little bit of interactivity, right? What is the point of having just static When we are using dynamic variables, we are still rendering everything statically, right? There's no point in doing that. So let me do something dynamic, like uh, like an image kind of thing. But I lost the flow of my app. You'll have to give me a minute to check into my prepared demo so I can refer to that code. And I'm also going to grab content from here and there. So you guys will have to tolerate the shift in this code. Okay, so I got the image, I got the title. Now let's see if, so if you guys remember, there is something called a title attribute attached that you can attach to all elements. Right? This is a boring example. Should be a better one. Let's add an image. Okay. Let's add the images to this folder. Let's create a public directory. I'm going to make a normal HTML project. So you can see that your Vue application project basically looks like a normal website project. It doesn't have to because there are advanced setups, but you can just work with that. So I'll just grab some code from other places. I'll just grab some assets. I now have an image. I have a poster image, okay, which I'm going to work with. Okay, it's called lala.jpg. So let's get that on the screen. So public image slash jpg. Okay, and there we go. We have our image. Again, nothing dynamic about it, but let's make it dynamic. Okay. Now, suppose I want to make this part dynamic, right? You would think that if I just go here and I just gave it a poster variable maybe, and I put in lambda.jpg, give it to this poster variable, and instead of the dynamic stuff, I'll replace it with poster. Right? And this should work, right? Let's see. And it didn't work. It broke. Okay. I want to deliberately show you because I just want to tell you what happens exactly. The mistake that we made is that we assume that if we can stick the variable inside of a string like this. You can't do that. This doesn't work like that. It's a variable. It will not be passed, right? So that's why you get a 404 error because image is not found, and you get some kind of compiling template error because the template could not compile because you stuck a variable inside of a string. So that's not how it works. So if you want to do this kind of dynamic binding, okay, you have to do something called attribute binding. And this should really not be unfamiliar to you if you've been working with Angular because you do this kind of thing all the time, right? So the way you do it is you convert this native HTML source attribute into a Vue binding attribute. So if you remember something called ng bind from Angular, it's the same thing. Instead of ng, just write v. That's it. Okay, and then give it a colon, and then swap this entire value out for the variable. Okay, it still won't work obviously, but at least you won't get a compilation. Actually, you do get a compilation. It should be a public path. Otherwise, let me just take the entire thing. Don't worry, you can abstract the path out into a separate function or something. So, what am I doing wrong? So this is the dangers of live coding, guys. Sorry, even the simplest things do fail. Yes. And apparently it's breaking because the template is not compiling. The template is not compiling because I made some kind of doodle in JavaScript or in my HTML. How do I find that out? Let's look at the errors. The errors are kind of not bad compared to React and so, but this. Okay. We hard code it first. Select, manage, allow. This trying to help me, I think. Yeah. 12:30. It's 12:30, guys. I'm running out of time, so I'll tell you what. What I'm going to do now is I have promised you a Vue.js demo and all of that. I'm going to make it into a pre-recorded demo, and I am going to do a recording of the entire Vue.js part of this presentation, and I'm going to post it on the JavaScript channel for everyone to enjoy in a properly edited fashion, rather than you seeing me struggle with live coding, etc. Okay, so I'm going to end the session over here, but I'm going to see you guys soon for the next webinar. Okay, thank you everyone for hosting me, and thank you for all the support from Imran, Lakshman, and Manjula for being here with me today on this Sunday morning. Thank you for spending a Sunday morning on me. And the next time we do this, it's going to be much more polished and finessed and much more enjoyable than what it was today. I hope you had a good experience. I hope it was enjoyable. Okay, with that, I say goodbye and leave you for till the next time. Thank you everyone for joining in. Thank you for your time. Okay.
For first time, it was like
Yeah. We haven't even been on YouTube in a Yes, I can address these questions. Uh, जाना है वर्कशॉप के लिए या should we after post lunch continue with planning our workshop? Once you rest and meet me in the evening.
6 o'clock. I think only because ये मेरे को चाहिए था ये अच्छे से हो जाए लेकिन अच्छा हुआ
ना, not bad for a person. What is the URL for looking at the YouTube channel? Because
What?
they are live right now. Just keep chatting. How do I do it? I think the event is still there.
JavaScripters. Just type in JavaScripters. Scripters. JavaScripters.
Hey, we are still live.
Scripters.
Okay. I think I'll start answering some questions right here.
JavaScripters.
Okay. All right.
we are still live.
Scripters.
Okay.
I think I'll start answering some questions right
The only problem is the audio, because the audio, once I start recounting the audio, then
I think I'll start answering.
so I'm going to pause this next. Stream is on, no? Okay, fine. How many people are here right now? Stream is on. Fine. How many people are here right now? Can you chat with me? Okay, sorry. One question. Huh. Me. ज़्यादा की energy all went with second energy. Come the evening we start with our workshop. Okay? Bye. Thanks for coming, Majora. Thank you. Good. Then working on browser extension framework. Yeah, I'm going to type in this answer and I'm going to be talking about at the same time. So yes, if you're using, so my knowledge is limited to Chrome extension development. Can Vue.js in Chrome extension development. Use React as well. I don't see any reason why you can't use any of these libraries in Chrome extension development. Okay, I've answered that question. Are you satisfied with that answer? I hope. Will I have a lot more to move on to? Okay. Next question is, okay. Next question is, what would you suggest to a backbone JS developer for 2000? Very good question. For So I would suggest exactly Vue.js. It is such a natural transition to make from Backbone to Vue. I would recommend going to Vue.js first, getting confident with Vue.js, and then even trying out Angular 2. Then you should definitely learn, because the Angular 2 and React learning curve hits you so hard as a Backbone JS developer. It becomes really hard. Yeah. So yes, definitely. If you're a Backbone JS developer, go for Vue.js. Okay. Any suggestion to build mobile apps Angular 2? So I tried so far only React Native, and that was such a pain to start with. And people have crazy kinds of stories to tell about Ionic. So I don't know where to tell you what is a great option to start, because we are not in that space yet where there are great options for beginners. I have tried out React Native. It seems to be fantastic so far. It's only been 1.5 weeks. It's really great. But the learning curve and the amount of errors that you will get when you're starting, it's crazy. It will baffle you and it will disappoint you. So you have to soldier on. So yeah, my recommendation is for React Native, but that is only because I have not touched Ionic yet. I want to try it out and tell you more for more informed opinion. Yeah. Now the next question is: we already have reusable components like grid, smart tables, sortable with Vue. Yes, you have multiple frameworks and supporting libraries and UI frameworks for Vue. Yes, absolutely. Everything. Grids, smart tables, sorting, searching, a lot. Yes, the video will be posted. It is saved and you can review it around save here. Yes. Can I write background page and content script using this framework? Content script, yes. Background page, why do you need a framework? Yeah, we can write. Yeah. If you want to talk about Chrome extension development, I have a developer named Piyush who wants to do a special 2-day workshop on Chrome extension development. If you guys want to host him, please tell me. He will come and he will host it for you. Yeah, the chat may or may not be there. That is true. What other questions do you guys have? Please tell me. Any other questions right now? I'm right here on YouTube. I'm looking at your live chat. If you guys have any questions, please ask. Otherwise, I can sign off. And you guys should connect with me on Facebook, on Meetup, on WhatsApp group where I am. Yeah, I will. I would love to know. I'm very curious about knowing more about what you guys are doing. Okay, I have a new question right now. Any questions on the resources for creating apps, Vanilla JS and jQuery for REST APIs? Yes, actually, I'm pretty interested in giving you resources exactly for this, because I don't want everyone to just start jumping into frameworks and getting their heart broken. So yes, I will post a separate resource, like a gist I will make for you, Akshay, that will have what should you use. Like if you just want REST API and you want to start with modular jQuery, I want to address this question. In fact, Akshay, if you could connect directly with me on this question, I would like to help you out, because it will help me develop content also for this. Because what I'm going to do in a future workshop is I'm going to start with like some tangled up jQuery code, and I'm going to do a refactoring workshop on how I get it out of that tangle and into nice, neat, modular JavaScript with a little bit of jQuery Spring Boot. Yeah, Akshay, so connect with me on this question. I would like to personally address this question. What else? Cool. Okay. So, any more questions, or should I sign off? And thank you each and every one of you who have told me that it was a great session, etc. That's very kind. I'm sure there were too many interruptions to deal with, but most of these live webinars are like this, I guess. If you want pre-recorded sessions, if you want me to focus on one particular topic and give a nice, clean 10 to 15 minutes video on it, please let me know. I would be happy to oblige because this is what I would like to spend a lot of time on this year. So, creating quality content for all of you and for myself. Yeah. So, okay, Kapil has something to say. Yeah. Okay. Kapil, tell me. What do you want to say? You want social profiles? Yeah. I'll give you Facebook. Here you go. Connect with me directly on Facebook and on the WhatsApp JavaScripters group and many other places that I'm available. Yeah, okay. Vue.js on scale, right? So I am really not qualified to answer this question in an authoritative way because I have not built anything with Vue.js on scale. But I have seen as evidence, I have seen complex repos on GitHub. Okay, and you, Kapil, you can personally, yes, I can not right now. Obviously, I don't have a link at hand, but Kapil, you connect with me personally with this question, and I'll give you tons of GitHub repos that you can pull down and run, and be convinced that yes, you can handle scalability. Okay. That said, the amount of best practices talk and scaling talk in the review community seems to be less, and I'm not sure why. Either because the Vue framework scales naturally for complexity, or maybe people don't build too much complexity with Vue.js. I'm not really sure. Okay, but yes, I have personally seen and run and examined code that is pretty complex for a Vue.js app to happen, and it happens wonderful. Okay. Another last thing I would like to say, if you can indulge me, like you can build components with Vue.js. The way Vue.js right now, the example I was showing you was a single file application. I can show you how there are complex component patterns. The same thing that you have in Angular and React, you can get in Vue. In fact, that is how you build a complex app in Vue. You use components. And I haven't got to that point yet to showing you so that you can build components with Vue, and that is how you build a complex application. Anything else, guys? Yeah, that's the WhatsApp URL. Yeah, and you guys are all based in Pune, I guess. I think I'm going to come to Pune one of these weekends if Imran calls me and organizes something. I'll come there. I'll do a presentation. You're using Laravel and Angular. Should we move to Vue? Be very careful, Srikanth, about moving things directly. But yes, that if you are looking for a framework to move to from Angular, then Vue would be the first place I would go uh, to, uh, to go there. Yeah, Kapil, I would like to answer your questions about architectural design, but this is really not the ideal space to do it. Maybe if you, even if you guys want a personal hangout session sometime in the evening for 15 minutes on any of the coming weekdays, I can come and just do a small 20-minute session with me and get your questions answered. I would be happy to indulge you. But yeah, how to structure a complex architecture of a complex app is something I can show you examples for. Also. No problem.